Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another Cassandra Lunch. It has been a while, so we're happy you could join us here again this afternoon. This afternoon, we're going to have change data capture for Astra DB from Dip and Shah. We have done a similar series for Apache Cassandra that's available on our YouTube and also on our blog. So please do check those out. But we're really excited for Astra DB this afternoon. The hosts for this event are Raul and myself. We are looking for both speakers and sponsors for this event. If you're interested in either opportunity, please contact us at marketing@Anant.us. We are a part of a larger community called Data Community DC, which believes in building an inclusive environment. So no matter your race, gender, or sexual orientation, everyone is welcome, and we expect respect to be given to all. Data Community DC is actually made up of a lot of different groups, all generally focused around data. You can find out more about these groups at the links listed below. So what do we cover here? We cover everything related to Apache Cassandra, Kafka, and Spark. If it's your first time joining us here at Cassandra Lunch, please go ahead and introduce yourself, how you work with Apache Cassandra, how you heard about this lunch, or what you hope to gain from some of these lunch sessions. And a fun inclusion would be potential topics you'd like for us to cover in future lunches. We do want this to be an inclusive lunch/event. So feedback is really appreciated. Your involvement is really appreciated. It's really what makes these lunches really kick off. Group rules: if you have a question, ask it. Dipin has mentioned that he doesn't mind questions throughout the presentation. So whenever you have a question, just go ahead and put that in the chat. Please be polite and courteous to others, like I mentioned earlier. And like I mentioned as well, we want this to be very inclusive. If you have any feedback, if there's something you'd like to comment on during the presentation, please share what you know with us. Here at Anant, we design, build, and manage global real-time data and analytics platforms surrounding Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka. So you could say Cassandra is our bread and butter. We'd like to thank our program sponsors along with our organizational sponsors for their continued support. And then if anybody has any jobs, meetups, hackathons, conferences, or classes coming up, please go ahead and drop a link with a short description about that in the chat. Ongoing events, obviously we have our Cassandra Lunch every week here. We just wrapped up our LLM Bootcamp series. If you haven't had a chance, or if you didn't have a chance to sign up for that, please join our no code meetup group. We do cover similar topics there. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're aware whenever we go live and whenever we have scheduled events. We do have our data engineers lunches every Monday at noon. We have a special series coming up in the next next 6 months, starting August 7th. I know we do cover Cassandra on this call, but if you're interested in data and or analytics, please make sure you're subscribed to our channel and our data engineers meetup. You could also check out our events page on Anant.us and you'll have all that information there. Like I mentioned earlier, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get notified when we go live. You also have access to our previous lunches on demand so you can watch it at your own convenience. Please also check out our new and improved Cassandra.Link. It's your one-stop shop for all things Cassandra related. And finally, our Runbook 17 is still available. This is a final call. You can go ahead and grab your free copy today. I'll be leaving a link to that in the chat. And with all our housekeeping items taken care of, I'd like to hand it over to our speaker this afternoon, Dipin. Over to you, Dipin.
Thanks, Akmi. Hello, everyone. So today we're going to talk about CDC. Like as Akmi mentioned, we've covered this earlier. We did this with DataStax Enterprise and all, but today we're going to talk about how you can do CDC with Astra DB, right? So the goal is pretty simple for today. We just discussed what is CDC, basic use cases for it. There are some limitations that we have with CDC, which are applicable across like Cassandra, DataStax Enterprise, or even Astra, right? And then we're going to have a quick demo about how you can actually get this working at your end, right? And the good thing about today's demo is it is very easy to set up. We are going to use the free tier products that are coming from DataSearch Astra for the source, and for the destination, we're going to use ElasticSearch Cloud. So again, you can have a trial period with Elastic Cloud and get this up and running. So anything that you try in this demo is available for free. And with that, we'll get started. Yeah, and one final thing. So as Aku mentioned, you can put your questions in the chat window and we can take them at any point of time. So there's no preference about when you would like questions. Whenever you have to shoot them. All right, so what is change data capture? So like very briefly, any new data that is coming into your database gets captured, right? So if you have a table, if you update something over there, if you insert a new record over there, or even if you delete something, right? So that is change data capture. Now, like it collects all that information from the source database, and then it collects all of those changes and sends it downstream. So it can be any system. So in this case, we're going to use Astra streaming. So what we do is we capture whatever changes have come to our database, our table, and then send it to a downstream system, which is then responsible for sending that data across to whichever destination that you want, right? So the technology or the basic tool set that is required at the source end is just capturing whatever is required. Then you have something that streams those changes, and then you finally have a place, like in today's example, ElasticSearch, which will be collecting all those changes, right? Again, and we talked about CDC in general. Now for Astra DB, it is pretty similar. The only thing that we have to consider for a database that is distributed or is again replicating data multiple times, you don't have master slave architecture, is that you need to duplicate your data, right? So Astra takes care of that for you. It does deduplicate data, and you're not worried about multiple records being sent across for the same set that you have, right? And finally, one thing that you need to consider when you put this into production for the test that we have today, it's not going to cost you anything. But when you consider CDC, and if you want to consider it for production, when you do the costing for this, you have to consider that there's additional costing for streaming also, right? Again, it's not too huge, but it's going to add to your cost. Use cases are pretty simple. Like we know, Cassandra as a database has a very strict data model, right? You have different use cases that are coming up, your vector search, you have your second indexes or storage attached indexes and all, which give you some sort of flexibility. But again, when you have another database or a warehouse or some place which is not say for example, used for analytics purposes, or is a place where you're trying to merge a lot of data together, that is where you're going to use CDC, where you pull data from Cassandra and send it to your ElasticSearch or your data warehouse if you want. And finally, with the limitations, your truncates do not go in CDC. So if you're truncating a table, this truncate will not be sent by CDC to the destination. This is again a fail-safe method also, so that you don't truncate anything at the destination. Obviously, it does not sync data before starting the CDC agent. So for example, you have a table which has 1,000 records over there, and you just enable CDC. Then any record that was inserted or updated prior to enabling the CDC agent, that change will not go over there. So for that, you first have to do a bulk migration and then start your CDC agent. It does not replay log batches. Your time to lives are not transmitted over there, and range leads are also not sent across. So this is one more limitation that you have. Yeah, SQL column names that match, because we're going to be using Pulsar in this example, right? So if there's a column name that you have in your table that matches like the primitive data types in Pulsar, then that is going to be an issue for you. So you'll have to check if you have something similar to that. Multi-region CDC is still not available. And finally, databases that have vector search enabled in Astra are again not supported right now. This might come in the future, but this is a limitation for now. You'll see when we do the demo, we'll have two different types of databases that you can select, create in Astra, right? So I'll show you which one to select for that particular case, right? And with that, we'll quickly get into the demo for our example. Yeah, sorry. All right. So over here, I just refresh my screen to ensure that I'm logged in. So I have two windows open at my end, right? So this is the DataStax Astra dashboard that you get when you log in for the first time, right? I don't have anything over here. Anything that I had earlier, I've deleted from here. And I also have a trial period that is running on Elastic Cloud. All right, so this is going to be a destination. Astra is a source, Elastic Cloud is a destination. Because Elastic takes some time, about 5 minutes to create this cluster, we are going to do this first, right? And again, these are all pretty simple steps. You just like basically create deployment or create your databases, and everything happens in the background. So for Elasticsearch, let's create a deployment. Right, let's name this CDC for Astra. Cloud provider, Google Cloud is okay. Region, I'm going to use US East 1 for Astra, so let's just keep it there. CPU optimized, version latest, that's fine. And these are additional settings that you can change, but they are not required for our demo today. So I'll just hit create deployment, right? Now, as I mentioned, this might take up to 5 minutes to create, so we let this happen in the background, right? And we'll switch to Astra for them. All right, so databases, we don't have a database right now. Let's create a database. You see, this is vector database, and you have your serverless database that is the default one that you had earlier, right? So we need to select serverless database over here because CDC is still not available for vector. I just named this CDC database and space. I'll just name it CDC keys. That's fine. I'm not being too creative over here. That's fine. That's okay. A provider is Google Cloud. That is fine. And US East 1. Yeah. Let's create this. Okay, this might also take a couple of minutes. Let's see this. And then, yeah, I will copy our username and password that is available here. This will be required when we try to send data to Elastic, and also when we try to look for this data, right? So I'll just copy this for now. And let that get created. Our database is still in pending state. So once we have this, we are going to create a table inside. Yeah, we can actually go ahead and create a Astra stream also till then. That's an option that we have. Let's do it actually. Till the time a database that gets created, what you can also do is you can go to streaming, right? Create a tenant, and I say CDC tenant over here. This is the tenant where CDC from our table or our key space is going to send the data to, right? So again, I'll try to keep all of these in the same region. CDC tenant, Google Cloud, ES East 1, create tenant. Tenant is already me, but I might have used this name earlier. CDC, that's okay. We have here. Okay, my database is active now. It's available. We go to the SQL console and we see if a key space is available now. just increase the font a bit so that it's visible for everyone. All right, describe key spaces. And we have a CDC key space, right? So because we already have our CDC key space, I will create a table inside that key space. So the table name is table 1. And we'll have 2 columns over here. We have a key that is text, and we also have column 1 that is again text, right? And we'll hit create. And let's just select this. Let's see. Again. All right, so we have 0 records over here. Now, once we have this up and running, right, let's go to the CDC tab, right, and say enable CDC. The tenant that we're going to use is the CDC Astra tenant that we created, right? And our key space is CDC key space, and the table that we have is table 1, right? And we say enable CDC. So this is initializing now, and again, this can take about 2 odd minutes. Let's see. Okay, this says our deployment is ready. Let's continue. This is initializing. Okay. Now we go to our deployment. Manage this deployment, right? So we can see it is healthy. We have data that is like populated for the things that we need. So we need the ElasticSearch endpoint. I'll show it to you where we need it. Okay. Let's just get this initialized. Already done. Let me refresh it once. Yeah, it's running. All right. Once you see this as running, okay, what you have to do is you have to click on this table. Set to the default. Okay. All right, it should be again. When you hit the CDC tab, and once you enable CDC for your table, right? Select that table, okay, and you have an option, a direct option over here that says connect ElasticSearch. So what we're going to do, we're going to say add ElasticSearch sync over here. And this is where you actually feed in the information about where you need to send this data, right? So you have your Astra CDC key spaces that is like auto-populated. You have a sync type that is ElasticSearch. You have other options also. They're going to be using ElasticSearch over here. But say, for example, if you want to do it on Snowflake or something else, you have all these options that are available, right? We can give it a name, say Elastic CDC sync. Okay, you don't need advanced settings for now. Now you have to select your topic. When you like enable CDC earlier, right, and you have that streaming agent that is going to be collecting that data, right? There are 2 topics that you get. At the end, you can see this for CDC keyspace.table 1. You have that over there. At the beginning, you can see this. There's a data topic and a log topic. The data topic is actually responsible for sending the data, but the data first gets sent to the log topic. Everything that is sent to the log topic is clean, and whatever we need to send to our destination, say like our destination database, gets filled into data, and then you can send it over there. So when you do this, select the data topic, not the log topic. Okay. Once you select data, Now you are filling up the information for your Elasticsearch, right? So for Elasticsearch, you can go to your deployment, right? Manage deployment, go to your deployment. Under Elasticsearch, copy the endpoint that you have. Copy that and just paste it, right? So this is your endpoint. With that endpoint, you also need to give it an index, right? And we'll give it a name, say test CDC index. That's fine. Now this index gets auto-created at Elasticsearch side. And we also need to provide the credentials, right? So our credentials for Elastic, like the one that we received while creating the cluster, we just paste it over there. Okay. There are this token, API keys, and all different authentication methods that are also available. But because we have like the username password for demo purposes, that is fine. Anything else is again, we just leave it to the defaults because we're not too worried about how many shards, how many replicas that we have, right? And at the end, we just hit create. Insert a couple of records over there and then see what happens. Okay, it's running now. Let's go to our database. Go to the SQL console again. And we'll select data, right first to see that there are no records. Sorry. I have a different key space name here. Our key space name was CDC key space. Table 1, right? We have 0 records. Great. Let's insert some data. Have this insert statement. Right, let's do another a value pool and a select. You can see we have 2 values listed over here. Now, once we have this, let's so there are 2 ways that you can see this data, right? You have your like a data view that you can see the index directly from the dashboard also. You can also do a HTTP request to get the same information, right? So let's try to do that first because that is how generally you're going to be looking at your data. Yeah, and my credentials and this gives me my instance information, but I need to look at my index, right? So my index name was test CDC index, right? So I mixed it up. Let me see. So index that I created, say test CDC index. Get this here. Right. So when you look at this information, let me zoom in a bit. You can see what I've received is ID1A, right? That is the key that we have. So that is going to be your identifier for that particular record. You have your ID, you have that value 1A over here, and you had column 1 and value 1 for it. The same way, you have ID2A and C1 value 2 also over here. And just for like understanding this a bit better, if we just insert a third record over here, right? And I'll just change this for now. And you refresh your index over here, you immediately receive 3A also, which has value val1 over here. Right. So yeah, that's it for the demo actually. What we did is we created a database in Astra, right? We created a key space inside it and a table inside the key space. We enabled CDC, which will send data to the Astra stream that we created, right? And we also have a sync that sends this data to ElasticSearch, right? And we're using Elastic Cloud to receive this information. And you can just query like however you query. So this is how we generally query ElasticSearch, right? So you query your database and you'll be able to see this information over here. So say for example, you have your user table or a master table in Cassandra, right? And you want to send all of that information because say for example, your primary key in Cassandra is just some sort of ID. And you want to query that table on something besides that ID. You want to query it on the basis of email IDs, you want to query it on the basis of addresses, or locate like any other purposes, right? You send it to ElasticSearch and you'll have all these search capabilities which ElasticSearch is better suited to handle, right? So that is how you do this. For test purposes, for production purposes, obviously a lot of hardening, a lot of testing is required, but this should pretty much get you started if you are trying to explore this. Yeah. Yeah, that's it from my end. Like if there are any questions.
Like Dipin said, if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. Just a few housekeeping items before we close out. Again, please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. We have a very exciting series on our sister lunch, our data engineers lunch, every Mondays at noon Eastern. That series kicks off on August 7th, and we're going to have a sequel every first Monday following that. We're really excited for that. Please do check it out. It doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. If you're watching this a little bit later, please make sure you grab your copy of our run book. The latest version is our 17th run book. That's going to be available. This is a final call that will be gone soon. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. If you're watching this a little bit later, thank you for catching us later as well. Please do join us next week, same time, same place. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you. Talk to you soon.